myself and Wilmsy, leaving Gerald, heading up the whatever highway it is, towards Mount Magnet and the Canning Stock route.
We've just been informed that the outback starts, well, it starts here. See? Not the outback. Outback. Starts here.
This is our first night on our way to the Canning Stock route with wine and a fire at Joker's Tunnel just out of Yalgoon.
Sausages?
Yeah, I think we might be ready for them. Fuck. Learned scholars down at the local pub claim Joker's Tunnel was created as a test of accuracy between two drilling teams that started at opposite sides of the hill and drilled in towards the centre, hoping to meet at the halfway point and not miss each other. The resulting tunnel is now home to bats and other creatures of the darkness. Wilms is just making her way into the Farmer Jack's supermarket to go and get some more spuds. We figure that they're a hardy vegetable for, for travelling. And just think if we get a bit tight on food later on, we could always have roast spud and mash. We've just turned off onto the Wiluna road, a mighty road in its own right. It'll take us 180 kilometres to get to that particular town, which is the southern terminus of the mighty Canning Stock route. This crude map illustrates the location of the rough road ahead.
Here, in the township of Wiluna, it's a very good idea to ensure you're fully stocked up on fuel and water. It's 985 kilometers to the next fuel stop, and water cannot be relied upon.
We see evidence that Wiluna is quite a thirsty town, with seeds of the beer tree littering the ground.
So we're just a few kilometers north of Wiluna, and we're at the start of the Canning Stock route.
The southern end of the Canning is in pastoral areas, so the wildlife is more abundant here than further into the desert. This is a bush bustard. Emus are also a common sight in the mulga shrublands, as are pink and grey galahs. The largest living marsupial is the red kangaroo of arid Australia. This is a red-capped robin, and the grey shrike thrush is a common resident. We've espied some bush tucker just in this little acacia here. This little thing here, they call it a bush banana for reasons I know not, and they are edible. Let's pluck it. Inside we have all these little seeds, and those things there we can chomp on. So, these ones are actually not bad. You probably won't write home about them, but they're alright. Bush banana. Yeah. What do you reckon of them, Wilms?
Oh, they're not that bad.
The origins of the Canning came about in the 1880s when pioneering pastoralists of the East Kimberley region identified a need for a stock route to viably transport their cattle down to the southern markets. In 1906, Alfred Canning was appointed the task of constructing a 1,700 kilometre stock route from Wiluna up to Halls Creek. 51 wells were sunk over the next 4 years. Have a look.
This is one of the reconstructed wells along the way.
A little stinky.
The water, however, is not the most inviting.
Well, there's frogs down there.
is indeed. Windich Springs, named so by explorer John Forrest in 1874 after an Aborigine in his party, whose name was Tommy. Windich. It's also a good place for birds, an oasis in an arid land with plenty of budgerigars, willy wagtails, pardalets, and kingfishers.
Trifle chill.
Well, armed with this little mag light, I think it's about time to go and have an exploration around Windich Springs for turtles. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. A turtle. This little fellow is a special little long-necked turtle, only found in Windich Springs. Cut off from his relatives, I dare say. But we shall let him go, I think. We don't want to upset him too much. Oh, look at that. He thinks so as well. Probably thinking about biting me. Oh.
Not every attempt at an obstacle is successful. This well, shaded by a large stand of eucalyptus trees, is another reconstruction of how the wells originally appeared. You can see the rope off to the left where horses or bullocks could be used to haul out water in larger quantities. So this is well 6 at Pierre Springs, and we're about to check out the quality of the water here.
Now this is not the way to lower the bucket into the well. Oh,
Yeah.
that probably wasn't a good idea. The old cattle driving days. Oh yeah, I stirred that right up. So now Wilms has to filter it.
Water's pretty clear, except for, you know, the debris, but it's not like it's gross water. So it looks quite drinkable. Bird life flocks to the wells, such as crested pigeons, gray-crowned babblers, and the songful butcherbirds. We've encountered a rocky outcrop, so we're going to get our hiking gear together and see what's up there.
This is our first sighting of Aboriginal artwork along the trail there. Fairly typical desert stuff, abstract paintings. In addition to the art, Wilms has found something else of interest. Dirty old dead roo.
I mean, there's such a dearth of scavengers that they just get mummified. That's a pretty good view.
Cockatiels or weros are an added bonus along the way.
This fellow is a common bronzewing, And here we have, perched up high and having a scratch, the brown falcon.
Little stone fort made out of basalt rocks by John Forrest when he was attacked by Aborigines after discovering a little water-filled creek down yonder. This little creek is near well 9. There are always hordes of little zebra finches nearby the wells. Around watering points is a good spot for sighting kangaroos, such as this small family group. This is a crested bellbird, and here a female fairy wren. More zebra finches, and lastly, a mated pair of Australasian grebes. In 1886, prior to Canning's monumental charge of building a stock route, 2 exploration parties ventured out into the arid heart of Western Australia to survey the terrain ahead. Both teams suffered casualties and great hardships. They had both advised against continuing the quest.
Making us some cheese and tomato sandwiches this morning on the Jaffle iron. So they're kind of like what we'd call grilled cheese. Frozen cheese. So we'll check and see if they're done. Yep, perfect.
In 1911, the first drovers who used the stock route were killed by natives. The last of the big mobs were moved in 1958. Today the stock route is renowned as one of the most remote and challenging 4x4 expeditions in the country. We have our first flat tyre of the journey. Unfortunately, it's not that far into it, with a sidewall slash from a rock, which is irreparable, I'm afraid. This is the sidewall tear I was waffling about. Then, to our great delight, we are straight back onto hard rocks. The majority of the 51 wells sunk are in a dilapidated ruin. Most have caved in and are either dry or the water is not fit for human consumption.
According to my calculations on the map here, we're approaching the Breeden Hills. There's plenty of exploring to be done in the Breeden Hills, amongst its rocky gorges. Aboriginal art sites are plentiful, and some good waterholes can be found.
Aboriginal rangers from the not-so-near community of Jigalong are practicing some fire management techniques here at Windich Springs, a popular stopover point along the journey. The idea here is to burn out all the excess vegetation, especially the spiky spinifex and any introduced grasses while the weather is relatively cool. Hopefully this will reduce the chances of larger, hotter and destructive fires from happening later in the year. Upstream from Breeden Springs is a long gorge of waterholes and an abundance of bird life. Honeyeaters are particularly numerous. Painted firetail finches are fond of this habitat. We've just left the Breeden Hills and we've encountered a rather difficult section of sand hills north. So what we're doing here is letting down the tyre pressure. Now because we're a heavy vehicle, we don't want to let it down too much. When the tyre pressure is low, it creates this effect which gives more surface area over soft sand. But of course when you go over rocks, it exposes those vulnerable sidewalls to being torn, as we've demonstrated before. So we're going to drop the front ones down to about 25 psi, back ones down to about 30, and hopefully that'll ease our passage up and over the dune. Bugger! Yep, that's the one. All about tyre pressure, unfortunately.
Well, we're a little bit lost in the desert. No, we don't know where we are, but we found some rocky outcrops and we're gonna go explore. Oh, and we're out of spare tires now too.
At least there is water here, although it is a rather unattractive stagnant pool. Well, we found out where we are. We're at the Terrace Hills, which is 14 kilometres ahead of where we actually thought we were probably going to be. It's a 5 kilometre journey back to the track. We'll head north. Right, we're doing a crash course in tyre repair out on the Canning stock route. We've just managed to get the thingamajig off the doovie what's it, and we're going to extract the tube and see if we can find out what damage has been done. Hey Will.
Yep.
A good reason to invest in tubeless rims. Our main issue so far has been tubes being pinched by the rim when the pressure gets lowered for crossing the soft sand and dunes. My skills as a tyre repairman are not good. I failed in the endeavour, mangling a tyre and destroying 2 tubes by pinching them with the tyre levers, putting them back on. It does appear that we might have to go to Newman and go and sort out our spare tyre situation.
We're looking at Savory Creek, a very salty little water course, which against all odds contains fish and an abundance of water birds. As you can see from the sign, we're gazing out here over one arm of what is a big salt lake, Lake Disappointment.
Looks like we've got some big grass fires up ahead. Always a bit of a worry driving along a single track surrounded by dry grass and spinifex. Not too many places to run if things get a little out of control. Turns out the fires are fairly civilised, though we select our campsite carefully to ensure minimal risk in us getting roasted sometime in the night. Being right in the middle of a large clearing is a good start.
Are you warm?
Just a touch. We survived our night at Georgia Ball. It isn't too long before we start to receive a lot of visitors, hoping we might leave them some water after restocking from the nearby well. We are preparing for our side trip to Newman for tyres. Wilms is topping up on the water while Foreman empties the jerry cans of fuel into the running tank. I missed the beginning of this situation, but it appears that a man of Aboriginal descent has been backed over top of by a taxi. And a commotion is beginning to flare up. It's just happened outside of a bottle shop. They've got him sitting up. That's a positive sign. So the victim's possibly not too broken. So Summer's just gone in there and to buy some liquor, and she's informed me that the fellow's name is Frank. We see a man in a football jersey, number 6, seems to be doing quite a bit of shouting and wondering if there's going to be punches thrown in the near future. They've got him on his feet, so that's positive. That's very positive. He's not walking unassisted. Taxi driver seems to be relatively relaxed about the whole situation. Police have just turned up to sort this whole situation out, so it doesn't look like it's going to flare up any more than it already has. Our little side trip to Newman a success. We're now back on the stock route, driving through all the burned countryside from the fires we saw previous. Tewa Well is number 26 and has been recently and immaculately restored. There is a little memorial for the stock route founder, Alfred Canning. Camels were introduced to Australia as a form of transport in the early pioneering days. Once train lines and roads were built, the camels were no longer required, and many were released. Now Australia's feral camel population could number at least 250,000, most likely more. Just dropped out of the sandhill country into this sort of interesting limestone rocky area that is dominated by what looks to me bloodwood trees, a type of eucalyptus. Most of the desert life happens at night with good numbers of small mammals, insectivorous marsupials, spinifex hopping mice, and the critically endangered bilby, to name a few. We've spotted a father emu with chicks, so we're stopping to observe for a while. We better have a closer look at that. Well, we're on our way into the Coonawarrigi Aboriginal community, roughly halfway along the Canning stock route, where we're going to be put over the metaphorical barrel. News has reached us that fuel is around $3.20 to $3.60 per litre. Coonawarrigi. Cars rolling in. Here's a few more victims of extortion. The workshop out the back. And this is nearby well 33 along the track, a source of good and reliable water.
Here, we're lucky enough to get quite close to a juvenile brown goshawk. They're usually quite secretive and quite shy.
This little fellow's a thorny devil, and although he looks mean, covered with spikes, he's really a harmless little chap. Unless you're a small black ant, which is what he eats. It's a dangerous world for a small reptile out round these parts. Vigilant birds of prey are constantly on the lookout, so a combination of camouflage and spikes goes well with a touch of speed. Even out here in the wilderness, we find ourselves waiting for pedestrians. A long trail of processionary caterpillars on their way to who knows where. They are not renowned for their speed of progress.
It's nice to be moving again. Shortly, we arrive at well 37, known as the Haunted Well. The carcass of a camel lays near the site, and close by are the graves of cattle drovers killed along the road.
Standing by a couple of graves near well 37 for a fella called Shoe Smith and his off-sider Chinaman. They were killed by Aborigines here. They were the first of the drovers to use the stock route back in 1911. Jock McClernand was a member of the 1922 Loch Oil expedition and was clubbed to death in his sleep by natives. Rocky outcrops like this one provided welcome shelter to the natives of the area, where evidence of their occupation are scribbles on the walls. This is the rock hole at well 38, and all around in this little cave are grooves in the stone. My best guess is where Aborigines have been sharpening their spears, and over on the other side is a little inscription, one from Ben Taylor back in the 1930s. We're standing at the grave of Michael Tobin, who was on Canning's trip, and he allegedly surprised a native out in the bush, was speared in the chest and shot the native dead. He himself perished from the wounds. Well 45 is a dry, shallow pit in the ground surrounded by wreckage. It is, however, in the Shire of Halls Creek, a milestone on our journey as we are now in the Kimberley and closing in on the end of our mission. Oh! It appears that someone has recently met with great misfortune. My thoughts, this might be a Land Rover, not unlike the one I'm possessing. And I'd say it was incinerated right here in the middle of the road, probably caught fire itself, maybe with spin effects under the hot parts of the motor and so forth. And it looks like after that, it's burned out the surrounding countryside and then someone shunted it off the road. But that would be a tragedy, whoever owned this vehicle. Got coil springs in here, which the Land Rover tends to have. All the tyres are melted completely off. We have a fry pan down here. That'd probably still be good, except for the fact we've got one and we don't need the extra weight. There are binoculars, which are PHUCKED'd. Our man's got a winch in here as well. Yeah, that'd be a bit of a treasure. There's a vehicle here broken down on the side of the road, not far past the other one, which I suspected was a Land Rover. However, looking at this, it's got 5 wheel studs and coil springs as well, and the general shape of the vehicle is quite similar, so it might have been a Jeep. Wrangler thing, just like this one.
There's quite a bit of spin effects under here, which Gav tells me that if you get too many of those in your vehicle, can set fire and then you're in a whole lot of trouble. So you can see here there's lots of these spin effect seeds here in the radiator too. And of course, if that all gets choked up, then your car just dies. Hey guys, the owner of the car was rescued by the police! Exclamation point. So no worries. See ya. So I guess he was okay.
Hey, the mystery for the burned car has now been uncovered with the survivor standing right here. It's Kieran, was it? Yeah, Kieran. Kieran. Yeah, 4 days in the bush from when his car burst into flames. Yep, alive.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
What's the date, Thursday?
Yeah.
I think that's what it goes, isn't it?
It could be. I lose track of time easy.
Yeah, I can use my fingers.
So here we are at Curly's camp. Awesome. Towards the end of the canning is the Breeden Hills. The first stop being Breeden Pool, a natural waterhole in the rocks with good clear water. A good number of finches frequent the locality. A bit of a hike takes the intrepid explorer up into the Breeden Hills for great views over the ranges. Then across the top to the Godfrey's Tank, a deepish cleft in the rocks with good water and Aboriginal etchings. On the top of these rocks we have this, what I can't explain, phenomenon of 2 parallel semicircular shapes running through the stones here and there, almost like fossils. I have no idea of how these are formed, but they're quite common just in this area where we are now. Up on the wall behind me there's insignias from early drovers and explorers. I believe Canning's name's up there. There's number 2, Mr. Trotman. There's Wells, and also an early drover, we've seen his mark before, Ben Taylor. Well 49 has good water, but it is hard to get to. It's 15 metres down under those doors and rotting timbers. Near the well is yet another grave, this one belonging to Jack Smith, who died in his swag after taking ill. Looks like that happened back in May 1939. He's been here a while.
So we've reached well 51, which is the last well that Canning and his team actually sunk, and it was the first one that the drovers would have used on well they were going down south. For us, it's our last well as well, and that means we're almost at the end of the Canning stock route.
The Aboriginal community of Wiluna signifies the end of the Canning stock route, the greatest four-wheel drive adventure in the country, and possibly even the world.